What's up, everybody? I'm Jacob. If you're new here, I talk a little about everything: self-improvement, careers, relationships, financial literacy, and technology. But your boy Jacob, he's feeling a little sentimental, a little nostalgic, and it's coming up on his grandpa's birthday. May he rest in peace. He was hilarious. And it kind of makes me think of The Greatest Generation and some of the things that they did when I was a kid that I thought was really weird, or just kind of hilarious by today's standards. A lot of you younger kids, you may not know, but the Greatest Generation, they're before the boomers, and there's also the silent generation between them. My parents are silent generation, so that's right before the boomers. But for the Great Generation, they fought in World War II. They fought back the National Pizza Party, fought in the Pacific and defeated the Axis nations, beat back communism, socialism, nationalism, all the isms that seem to be coming back in force today. And I'll tell you what, if they saw that, they would be rolling over in their graves. But another thing about the silent generation is they grew up during the Great Depression. And we're going on 100 years since the Great Depression happened. And, a lot of them grew up poor. And so they had some very, very interesting habits that they even imposed on my parents to a degree, especially during the 70s when that was like a really rough time for me growing up. In the 70s, there was a lot of inflation, very similar economic conditions as today. Which when Jimmy Carter was president, who just passed away. But yeah, here's some things that I remember that the Greatest Generation did that I thought were just weird. So I remember when I would go over to my grandpa's house, and under the sink, there would be a coffee can. And he lived with his sister. Both of them were divorced, which, by the way, was very unusual for silent generation to be divorced. They were both divorced, and they were both kind of like red pilled in the sense, and they were both monking it up together. And they just decided, we'll just live together and pool our retirement, which I thought was a great idea. But anyway, yeah, the coffee can. My aunt, my great aunt, would have the Folgers coffee can under the sink with the lid on it, and if y'all remember, that's where they put the bacon grease. And they would cook with that bacon grease. Take a teaspoon or a tablespoon and throw it in the pan and cook up whatever they were going to cook up instead of butter. So yeah, that was always weird, because I to be honest, I hated the taste of bacon grease, and I thought it was really rich. And I prefer to cook with butter, or I use olive oil. So I just thought that was always a weird thing. You don't really see that anymore. So yeah, it's part of they're growing up poor during the Great Depression to save money. The other thing they did, which I thought was odd, because you grow up, in the land of plenty and all that, is I remember opening. There was a drawer, the junk drawer or whatever, and they'd have rubber bands and twine and all kinds of other knickknacks that they had saved that they were recycling. And one of the other things they'd have was tin foil. They would save tin foil. They would wash off any tin foil. They'd flatten it out. Or if it was, large, they'd fold it nicely into a square, and they would cut off pieces or whatever and use it for whatever they needed. Because, you didn't have as much plastic as we do today. So, they would have saran wrap, but they didn't like to throw away stuff. So what they would do is they would wrap tin foil over glass jars and put a rubber band, or, they would use tin foil to wrap stuff and put it in the refrigerator. So yeah, the refrigerator always stank to high heaven of all kinds of all the other stuff. But yeah, recycling tin foil. And again, that not only does that come from growing up poor, but that's also a habit that came from World War II, because there was actually a shortage of materials, a shortage of metal, rubber, and even food shortages to a degree. Y'all in the UK, you can talk about that very heavily. But even in the States, we were there would be trucks I wasn't alive during the time, but my grandpa would tell stories about how there'd be a truck. They would come through the town and they would throw their used tires, metal, wire, anything that had metal in it, pots and pans, you name it, anything for the war effort to make weapons, tanks, all that kind of stuff. Growing up poor in World War II, that's what I was told where that came from. Oh yes, got my notes here. They never threw away anything. They didn't use this term. You know the term I'm talking about, but in today's terms, we would call it jury rigging. I'm not going to say the other word, but you all know what I mean if I'm older. So yeah, they never threw away anything. If it broke, they were going to fix it, but not just because to save money, because they could. The men of that generation were very, very resourceful. They had all the tools, all the knowledge. My mom's father was a very, very intelligent man, very introverted, did not go to college, but he just built a boat. Like nobody knows where he learned how to build a boat. He literally built I don't know what you call the bones, the arcs. He built the boat upside down in his land, and then hired a crane. They turned it over and hauled it into the bay, and then he straight up monk moded it into retirement on a boat that he built in the bay. I mean, this is badass. This is what the men of that generation could do. My other grandpa was a machinist. He left the Navy in 1938, right before the National Pizza Party started getting really uppity and taking over Europe. But he worked for the Navy and built wings for airplanes and repaired ships. And he operated this big hammer, and it would just come down and go boom, boom, boom. And he would just sit there and shape the metal. And he only wore gloves. No eye protection, no ear protection. And guess what? He had trouble with vision when he got older because he had metal filings in his eyes, and he was deaf as hell. Wow. So yeah, just a different generation. Very resourceful. They fixed everything, never threw anything away. And one last thing that I always thought was kind of quirky, and this is more what the women did. They never bought new furniture. So again, partly this is because the men in the family, if it broke, they would just repair it. Oh, I'll reupholster it. Or, a leg cracked, I'll just make a new leg, machine a leg and put it on. They would just fix shit. The thing is they would put they would wrap the plastic on the marital sofa. When the guests would come over, you sit down in that sofa, and it would sound like you're sitting on a balloon. It was funny. But anyway, yeah, they own the same furniture for all through their marriage, because that was one of the things that would happen is they would get the house, buy furniture, and that was they invested it, kept it, and maintained it. Whereas me, I can't count the number of sofas that I've owned over my life, the number of chairs that I've sat on and broken and just threw away. I can do carpentry to a degree, and I've got tools, and I can do electrical and stuff like that. But, it just never comes to my mind, I'll just fix it. Would not be unusual to go to my grandpa's house and see twine and glue and baling wire on stuff. And, and as good as new, that's what my grandpa say, good as new. But anyway, I just thought I'd share some of those stories. I miss my grandpa. He was a great man, quiet, introverted. I got a dose of that, but his sense of humor was just, oh man, he always had us in stitches. I got stories for you there, but I'm going to cut it off here. In the meantime, comment below. Tell me some of your stories. If you're older or your grandparents, what it was like and some of the quirky habits or things they did. In the meantime, comment below, like and subscribe, and until the next one, peace.